everyone, welcome to today's video tutorial of Rex the Dinosaur from Likey's new Amitami line. I am really excited to start making this with you, but before we do, let me open up the kit and show you all the materials that come inside of Rex's kit. Okay, so here's an overview of everything that is included inside of the kit. First of all, starting off with the instructions. So these are Rex's instructions. I'll be going over these step by step with you today, but if you want to follow along with me while I read them out loud, they are here for you. As well as we have our main color, which is plum, and then we have color A and B, just a small amount of both, but this is lavender gray and this is black. We also have a stitch marker that matches Rex, which is super cute, and we have a darning needle in this bag here. We have the perfect amount of stuffing for our project right here, and then we have our crochet hook for the project, which in this case is going to be a 2.5 millimeter. So with all that out of the way, let me get set up and we'll get right into making Rex. If you're going to be reading along while I work the instructions, we are going to start at the head and work our way down. And I just wanted to show you there's also a list of our materials and all the tools I just showed you, as well as a conversion chart and a list of abbreviations in case you're unsure of what any of these abbreviations do mean. They are here. And on the back here is our entire assembly guide. So we'll get into this much later in the video, but I just wanted to show you that starting off the bat. So let's get working right on Rex. And as mentioned, we are going to start with Rex's head. So we need our plum color, which is our main color, our crochet hook, and our stitch marker. And to start off round one with our main color, we need to chain 3. And in the second chain from the hook, we need to make 6 single crochet. So if you're unfamiliar with how to make a slip knot, let me show you that really quickly. You're going to put 2 fingers out like this, drape the yarn over your 2 fingers, clamp it down with your thumb, then you're going to take your other hand and wrap that yarn all the way around to the front, making sure you make an X or crisscross with the yarn, and with your ring finger, grab the yarn and hold it steady. You're going to then take your crochet hook with the hook side facing down, go under that first strand of yarn, grab that second strand, pull it through that first strand and release those fingers from inside. It'll make this little knot and you can pull it tight on your hook and then you have a slip knot. So let's do that one more time. Again, you're going to place 2 fingers out, drape the yarn over your fingers like this, clamp it into place with your thumb, wrap your yarn all the way around, grab with your ring finger, then go under that first strand, grab the second strand, pull it through, and release your fingers, pull your knot tight. That is your slip knot. So once you have your slip knot on your hook, you can go ahead and chain up 3. So let's do that really quick. 1, 2, 3. And into the second chain from the hook, we need to make 6 single crochet. This loop on the hook does not count as a stitch, so we have 1, 2, and into that second chain, let's make 6 single crochet. If you're unfamiliar with making a single crochet, I'll show you that as well. You are going to insert your hook into that stitch I mentioned. All 6 single crochet are going to go into this stitch. Yarn over, pull the loop through that hole we just went through, yarn over again, and pull through. That is 1 single crochet. That's 2 for me because I've already made one, so let's do it again. Into that stitch, pull the loop through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through, that's 3. Do that again. 4, 5, and 6. That is 6 single crochet. And we have like this little circle forming, which is perfect. So in that last stitch, we're going to take our purple stitch marker, if I can grab it, and we're going to place it into that stitch, and that'll just help us keep track of every round and keep our stitch count accurate. All right, and now we are ready to start round 2. So for round 2, it says place 1 increase in every stitch for 12 stitches total. So what we're going to do is find our very first stitch we made, our very first single crochet, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through 1 regular single crochet, and then we're just going to do that same thing in the same stitch again. So an increase is 2 single crochet into 1 stitch, and then go ahead and do that into the next stitch. 1, 2. So now we have 4 single crochet total, and we're going to do that all the way around. So complete this for all of the stitches, and I will meet you back here at the end of our increase round. I'm back to the very end of my round. I'm going to place one more single crochet. I did remove my stitch marker so I could make that single crochet, and then I'm going to add it right back into that last stitch. So that's the end of round 2, and now we have 12 single crochet. So the next round, which is round 3, is 1 single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch. We're going to do this 6 times for 18 single crochet. So that means into this next stitch, we're going to do 1 single crochet. Into the following stitch, we're going to do our increase, which was 2 single crochet in that one stitch. And that's the sequence for round 3. So then you'll just repeat that for 6 times total. So this is a second time. And go ahead and repeat that all the way around. I will see you back here at the end of round 3. All right, I've just completed round 3 and we are ready for round 4, which is going to be 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and an increase. We're going to have 24 stitches at the end of this round. So into the first stitch, 1 single crochet, into the second stitch, 1 single crochet, into that third stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochet for our increase. Repeat that for this entire round, and I will see you back here at the end of this round. All right, so we've just finished round 4 and we are ready to start round 5. Round 5 is a little bit different because we are going to do a single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So let's break this down. 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect. And then the next step is that we are going to increase in the next stitch. So let's do 1 increase. Perfect. After this, we are going to go ahead and single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So we'll place 1 single crochet in the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where things get a little bit different from what we're used to doing. So it says we're going to increase in the next stitch 6 times. So 6 stitches in a row we're going to work an increase on. So let's do that. There's 1 increase. 2 increase. 3 increase. 4 increase, 5 increase, and last time we're going to do 6 increase. Perfect. All right, so that was our 6 back-to-back increases worked, which is perfect. And now we are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now after those 4 stitches, we're going to work another increase into the next stitch. So let's make 1 more increase, just like that. And then it says single crochet 1 in the next 4 stitches. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, and we're back to our stitch marker for number 4, which is perfect. All right, that is the end of round 5. So we now have 32 single crochet. I'm going to move my stitch marker up 1 and we will begin round 6. Okay, so for round 6, we're going to break this one down again too. So we're going to single crochet 1 in the next 10 stitches. So work 10 regular single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. Then the next part of round 6, it says we're going to single crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch times 6. So 6 times we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then an increase in that stitch after. Just like that. So we're going to do that 6 times. So that was 1 time. This is 2 times, 1 single crochet and then an increase. Repeat that for 6 times. I will meet you after these 6 sets of single crochet, increase. All right, I just finished my 6 times of single crochet, increase. Now these last 10 stitches make 1 regular single crochet. I'll meet you back at the beginning of the round. We'll start round 7 together. Just finished my round 6, so if you have this funky look and shape working here, you are doing it correctly. You can just tell from the side that this is the top of his head and it's going on to his snout. So that's why we're working it out so long in one spot and more narrow on the sides, just in case you need a little visual there. This is the side of his head and then this will be the front of his snout here. So let's work round 7. For round 7, we are going to work 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. So that's the first part of round 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then our increase, we are going to actually work 2 sets of increases. So we have 1 increase into that next stitch and then again into that following stitch. We're going to do 1 more increase like this. Perfect. So we just worked our 6 single crochet, increase into that next stitch, increase into that next stitch, and now the next set of instructions for round 7 is we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 22 stitches, increase in the next stitch. So work your 22 stitches. I'll meet you back over there. We'll do our increase together. Okay, I've just worked my 22 regular single crochets, so 1 single crochet in each stitch of those 22 stitches. And now we're going to increase in the next stitch and then increase in the following stitch. So we're going to do 2 back-to-back increases. So into that first stitch, let's place 2 single crochet. And into that next stitch, let's place 2 more single crochet. And then to end round 7, all we need to do is single crochet into the next 6 stitches and then we'll begin round 8. All right, so we're ready to start round 8. Now for round 8, all we have to do is make 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. At the end of this round, we'll still have 42 stitches, which was our stitch count from last round. So go ahead and place 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. I will meet you back at the end of round 8 and we will start round 9 together. So I just finished round 8 of making 42 single crochet and we're going to start round 9. So for round 9, we need to make 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches. Let's do that really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and our next part of instructions is to make 2 single crochet decrease. So to make a decrease, which we haven't done yet, you're going to insert into your next stitch as you would normally, yarn over and pull a loop through, so you now have 2 loops on the hook. Go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, and now you have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and close that stitch. That is 1 single crochet decrease, and the pattern said we need to make 2. So let's make another one. Insert into this stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop. So now you have 2 loops on the hook, then into the next stitch, go through, pull up 1 more loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, close the stitch. That's another decrease. So very similar to our previous round of round 7, how we did 22 regular single crochet. We're going to do 1 single crochet in every stitch again for 22 stitches, and I will meet you back here on the other side because we're going to do another decrease. All right, so I just made my 1 single crochet in those 22 stitches and we are ready for the next part of round 9. So we need to make a single crochet decrease 2 times. So as we did on the previous side, make our first single crochet decrease, close it up, and make 1 more right next to it, just like that. And then the last part of round 9 is to make 1 single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. So I'm going to make those really quick and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. Now that round 9 is done, we have a new stitch count of 38, and so for round 10 we're going to go ahead and make 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around, and we'll still have 38 at the end of that round. So go ahead and make your round 10 and I will meet you back for round 11. I just finished my round 10 and we're going to move on to round 11. So for round 11, single crochet into each of the next 13 stitches and then a single crochet decrease 6 times. Then we'll end with 13 single crochets again. So let's work that row together. We're going to start off with our 13 single crochets. That's just 1 single crochet in each stitch for 13. So that was 3 for me, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now we're going to be doing a lot of decreasing here, so we have to do a single crochet decrease 6 times in a row. So let's do that. Got 1 decrease here, and then we have 2 decrease, 3 decrease, 4, 5, last one, 6. Perfect. And then we're ending the row with 13 more single crochets. So 1 single crochet in each stitch for 13 stitches. I'll meet you back here at the end of round 11 and we will start round 12. All right, just finished round 11, moving my stitch marker up, and we are ready to start round 12. So for round 12, first part we need to do is 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After those 5 single crochets, we're going to make a single crochet decrease. Just 1 this time. There we go. 1 single crochet decrease. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches after that. 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitch. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And then we are going to do a single crochet decrease 6 times in a row again. All right, so we have 1 decrease, 2 decrease, 3, 4, 5, and our last decrease right here, number 6. Perfect. All right, and then to finish off round 12, we need to make 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We need to make another decrease, just 1, and then 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches to end the round. So make your 5 regular single crochet, and then we'll start round 13. So now we have 24 stitches at the end of round 12, and we are ready for round 13. So for round 13, we're going to make a single crochet decrease. Let's do that really fast. Get my stitch marker out of the way there. All right, 1 single crochet decrease. Perfect. After that, we need to make 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and a decrease. We need to do this 2 times in a row. So 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease. So that was 1, 2. Here's our decrease. All right, let's do that one more time. 1, 2, decrease. Perfect. And then after that part of round 13, we need to make 3 single crochet decrease in a row. So let's make our 3 single crochet decrease. Got 1 here, 2, and 3. Don't worry if all your work is kind of bunching in like this. Once we stuff it, it'll all puff back out. So that's okay if it's kind of crinkling at the moment. All right, so the last part of round 13 is we need to make 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and a decrease. We need to do that 2 times in a row. So let's do that. 1, 2, and a decrease. And then our last set of stitches is 1, 2, and a decrease into these last 2. Let me remove the stitch marker to do that. And this will be the end of round 13. Perfect. So let's put our stitch marker in because we have one last round of the head before we fasten off. So the last round of the head is round 14, and it says make one single crochet in each of the 16 stitches left. So make one single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. We'll fasten the head off. All right, I just worked my last stitch of round 14. I'm going to place my stitch marker aside because we won't be needing it for a while. So go ahead and chain up one, and then we can cut a tail to sew the head onto the body later. Just cut a little tail there like that. Take your hook, pull this through. That'll fasten off your head. And then we're going to actually stuff the head. So grab some of your stuffing you have, and I like to pull it apart a little bit just to fluff it up even more. And go ahead and stuff your dinosaur head. As much or as little as you'd like. I usually like mine pretty firm, but just be careful not to overstuff it either. Okay, so what I mean by overstuffing is make sure a lot of stuffing isn't popping out of the bottom of the head here. So mine's pretty well stuffed, and we can put the head aside. We will get to that later when we assemble the dinosaur all together. But now we need to start the body. So we need our main color again. And we need to start the body the same way we started off the head with our slip knot and a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, and then into the second chain from the hook, we are going to do the same thing as the head. We're going to make 6 single crochet into that second chain space. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After you make your 6th single crochet, go ahead and add your little purple stitch marker, and we can begin round 2. Now round 2 is going to start very similar to our previous round 2 for the head. We need to make an increase in every stitch for 12 single crochet total. So into that very first stitch that we made, we need to make 2 single crochet into that stitch. And we're going to do that into every stitch of the round, so we have 12 single crochet. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you at the end of round 2. All right, I just finished my entire round of increasing, and for round 3, we're going to do something very similar to our head as well, and we are going to make 1 single crochet in the next stitch and an increase. So just a refresher, into that next stitch, just 1 singular crochet, and into the following stitch, an increase. So 2 single crochet into that stitch. Go ahead and repeat that all the way around for round 3. I'll see you at the end of this round. Now that round 3 is completed, let's make round 4. So round 4 is 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase. And we will repeat this sequence for the entire round of round 4. So that was 2 single crochet and an increase after that. And just repeat that all the way around. I will see you back at the beginning of the round, and we'll start round 5. All right, so you can really start to see our circle taking shape. That was the end of round 4. So for round 5, we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and an increase for 6 times to bring our stitch count to 30. So as you can see, we're really just adding 1 extra single crochet between our increases. So this round, we're just working 3 single crochet like that. 1, 2, 3, and then our increase. Repeat that sequence all the way around, and I will see you again for round 6. Now that we've worked round 5, we are ready for round 6. So for round 6, we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase. So 4 stitches between your increases this time. 3 and 4. Perfect, and then an increase. All right, go ahead, repeat that, and I'll meet you back here for the next round. Awesome, so now we are at the end of round 6, so we have 36 stitches total all the way around, and now for round 7 through 10, which is 4 rounds, we are gonna make 1 single crochet in each stitch, so every round is gonna have 36 stitches at the end of the round. There's no increasing or decreasing for this, so just work 1 single crochet in every stitch. Make sure you're still moving your stitch marker up after every round because you can very easily lose your place. And I also recommend keeping like a tally either on a scrap piece of paper, your phone, or the instructions just to know how many rounds you've worked, because you would be surprised how fast you can forget when 4 rounds is over. So I'm going to work these 4 rounds of 1 single crochet in every stitch, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, I just worked my 4 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch, and you can see we're starting to get this little bowl looking shape. That is perfect. That's what should happen when we work no increases or decreases. So that looks great, and we are ready for round 11. So for round 11, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches and a decrease. So we're going to go from 36 stitches to 33 stitches because we're going to do this 3 times. So let's do the first one together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we're going to work a decrease after that. So remember, that's just making 1 stitch from 2 stitches essentially. So 3 loops on the hook and then closing it up to make a decrease. Do that 2 more times and I'll meet you back at the end of the round. We'll have 33 stitches at the end of round 11. All right, I just finished round 12, adding my stitch marker back in, and for round 13, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 9 stitches and then a decrease. We're going to do that 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a decrease over the next 2 stitches here. Perfect. Do that 2 more times. I'll meet you back at the end of the round. We've now reached the end of round 13, and for round 14 you're going to go and make 1 single crochet in every stitch around. We have 30 stitches total, so you'll still have 30 at the end of round 14, and we will begin round 15 after this. So go ahead and complete your 1 single crochet in every stitch. I'll meet you back at the end of the round. All right, so we're ready for round 15, and round 15 is 1 single crochet in the next 8 stitches and then a decrease. So you can kind of see we have a pattern again here of how we're decreasing. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then a decrease over the next 2 stitches there. Perfect. And do that 2 more times. I'll meet you back at the end of the round. All right, so now round 15 is done. I'm actually going to pull up my loop a little bit here because we're going to stuff the dinosaur just a little bit, because as the opening gets smaller, it does get more tricky to stuff the bottom part. So I'm going to grab a little more stuffing and we're going to add it into his body. Remember, I'm pulling it apart again before I actually stuff him. And just a little bit, you don't need to go overboard here. We still have plenty of time to stuff. I definitely grabbed way too much there. That's okay though. All right, that's plenty to get me started. And just in case you were getting confused on how the body is working, this is the bottom of the body and we're working it upward like that. So if that helps at all, you kind of visualize what we're doing. I just thought I would mention that because sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you're doing, but this is the bottom of the body and we'll work it up like this. So now that that is stuffed to my liking, I'm going to insert my hook back into the project here, and we're going to begin around 16. So for round 16, very similar to what we have been doing, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches and a decrease. We're going to do this 3 times in a row. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a decrease. Do that 2 more times. I'll meet you back at the end of this round. Now that we're at the end of round 16, we have 24 single crochet total. So round 17 is 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. I'll meet you back here for round 18. I just finished round 17 and now we're on to round 18, which is going to be another decreasing round for us again. So this time we're just going to do 6 single crochet between our decrease. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a decrease. And then you're going to do that 2 more times. And after this round, For round 19, you are going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch around, and that'll be 21 stitches. So I will actually see you back here at round 20. We'll do another round of decreasing. So finish this round and then work 1 round of 1 single crochet in every single stitch, and we'll meet back at round 20. All right, so I'm back from working rounds 18 and 19, which 18 was, remember, 1 single crochet in 6 stitches and then a decrease 3 times for a new stitch count of 21. And then round 19 was 1 single crochet in every stitch. So we have both of those rounds completed. I'm going to pull up my loop again a little bit because I need to add a little more stuffing to Rex before we move on. And we are actually going to start round 20 next, which is going to be 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and a decrease, and we're going to do that 3 times as well. So our new stitch count after round 20 is going to be 18. So I'm just going to fill this a little more. I think that's perfect. So let's move on to round 20 together here. Okay, so we need to make 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3, 4, 5, and then let's do a decrease. Perfect. Do that 2 more times. I'll meet you back at the stitch marker for round 21, which is the last round of our body. All right, we've made it to our final round of the body, round 21. As I mentioned, we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next 7 stitches and then a decrease. And we're actually going to only do this one 2 times. So instead of 3 like we're used to, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and my decrease. I'm going to do that one more time. I'll be right back with you to fasten off. All right, my last decrease of the round, chaining up 1. I remove my stitch marker. You can keep that out because we are done with the body. Cut a tail to sew. Pull my hook through like that. There we go. And the body could afford a little bit more stuffing, so I'm going to pop a little more in, and then we're going to move on to working the tail, which will be fun. So I think that's probably a good amount there. We can always put more in as we're sewing him together, so it's not really a big deal right now, but I'm going to go ahead and pop this aside with the head, and we'll move on to working the tail together. Okay, so for the tail, we need our main color again, which is our plum, and we need to do our slip knot and chain 3 method one more time. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, and again, in the second chain from the hook, we're going to make 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, there's my 6 single crochet. Don't forget to pop your stitch marker into that last stitch of the round, like that. And we are going to start round 2 of our tail. All right, so this time our round 2 is a little bit different than what we're used to. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and an increase in the next stitch. So we're going to have 7 single crochets total. So let's start working that into that first stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet for 2, into the third for 3, 4, into the fourth, 5 into the 5th, and then into our stitch with the stitch marker here, we are going to work our increase into this stitch. So let's do that. Should have removed my stitch marker first, but that's okay. Just make sure you're working that into the same stitch and then move the stitch marker to the last stitch of the round, and that's the end of round 2. So for round 3, we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next 6 stitches and then an increase for 8. So we're going to do very similar to what we just did. 1 single crochet, 2, let me move my stitch marker, it's getting in my way, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then over here to the last stitch of the round, we're going to do another increase. And I didn't move my stitch marker again first. Sorry guys. Sometimes I just get so in my work, I forget to do my stitch marker first. Okay, so that's the end of round 3. We have 8 single crochet. So for this next round, round 4, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and an increase in the next stitch. We'll do that 2 times. So into the first stitch, 1 single crochet, into the second stitch, 1 single crochet, into the third stitch, 1 single crochet, and then we have our increase into the next stitch. Do that 1 more time, and then we will finish off this round. Alright, so for round 5, we are just going to do 1 single crochet in every single stitch all the way around. So at the end of this round, we're going to have 10 single crochet just like the previous round. Place my stitch marker at the end of the round again. And we are on to the last round of the tail, which is round 6. We're going to do a single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches and then an increase into the next stitch. Do this 2 times so we have 12 single crochet total. So we have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, and our increase. And repeat that 1 more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, and into that last stitch. Move our marker. We don't have to put it back because this is the last stitch of the last round is our increase. Perfect. All right, that is all we have to do for our tail. Seems like it goes a lot faster after you work the body, huh? So go ahead and chain 1 to fasten off and cut yourself a nice tail for sewing it on after. Make sure you pull your hook through to secure that fastening stitch, and then we're going to lightly stuff the tail. So when you have a smaller spot like this, at least for me and my nails, it's hard to get the stuffing in that opening. So I just take the back of my crochet hook and I'm just going to lightly stuff the tail with the back of my hook. Just makes my life so much easier. I actually grabbed too much stuffing, so I'm going to take some of this out. Just want this to be very lightly stuffed, nothing too major here. All right, perfect. That is the end of my cute little tail, so I'll put Rex's tail aside, and let's move on to making the arms. All right, so for the arms, we're going to start this, again, very similar to how we are used to starting with our slip knot and our chain up of 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. And again, into the second chain from the hook, go ahead and make your 6 single crochet. I'll meet you back after I make mine and place my stitch marker in that last stitch. All right, perfect. I have my stitch marker in and my 6 single crochet, so we have our little circle here, which is great. And for round 2 of the arms, we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and an increase. We'll do that twice. So into that first single crochet we made, we're going to make 1 single crochet, and then we're going to make 1 single crochet, and our increase. 3, 4. Perfect. Let's do that 1 more time. 1, 2, oops, 3. Let me take my stitch marker out, even though I'm already halfway through my increase. Okay, 4. Perfect. Put my stitch marker back in. Now we have 8 single crochet total for our arm. And for the last row of our arm, we're just going to make 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. So we just need 8 little single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and into my last stitch, number 8. There we go. And that's the end of our tiny little T-Rex arm, but T-Rex have small arms, so that does make sense. Go ahead and fasten off by chaining 1 again. Cut your little tail to sew it on later. Perfect. And take a minute to make 1 more of these arms, and then we will move on to making the T-Rex's legs. All right, I have made both of the arms and we can set those aside with the rest of our body to assemble later. So let's make some legs now. So for round 1, we of course need to have our main color, which we do, and a slip knot chain 3 and we're gonna make 5 single crochet from the second chain on our hook this time instead of 6. So make your 5 single crochet, put your stitch marker in, and we will catch up for round 2. Okay, I've made my 5 single crochet and I have my stitch marker in. So for round 2, we're going to make an increase in every stitch. So we're going to go from 5 single crochet up to 10 single crochet. So make an increase in every stitch all the way around. We're used to doing that now, and I will see you at the end of round 2. All right, that is the end of round 2. We have 10 stitches, and now for round 3 through 5, which is going to be 3 rounds, we're going to make 1 single crochet into each stitch. So every round has 10 stitches for 3 rounds. I'll meet you back here at the end of those 3 rounds, and we will fasten off the foot. Or leg, I should say. All right, I have my little leg all finished up here, and I'm going to fasten this off, leave a tail to sew it on later, and then we're going to lightly stuff the leg just a little bit, just to give it a little more roundness. So I have a little stuffing over here still. I'm going to use the end of my crochet hook trick again. All right, so now I have my leg all done and lightly stuffed. I'm going to set this off to the side. Go ahead and make 1 more of these, and then we'll make our last pieces of the pattern, which is going to be the spikes. We're going to make 3 of those, and then we'll start assembling Mr. Rex. So I'm very excited. I'll catch you guys back after I make 1 more leg. All right, now that both of our legs are completed, we can make our 3 spikes. So with color A, which is this lavender gray color, we haven't used this yet, we're going to go ahead and chain up 3. So make sure you do your slip knot and your chain 3. And then in our second chain from the hook, we are going to go ahead and make our 4 single crochet, and then add your stitch marker at the end of that 4th one, and we'll move on to round 2. Okay, I just made my 4 single crochet. I'm adding my stitch marker into the last stitch of that round, and we are ready for round 2 of the spike, which is 1 single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch times 2. So we're gonna have 6 single crochet at the end of this round. So into that first stitch we are going to make 1 single crochet, and then into the next stitch we need an increase. So let's make an increase. 1, 2. Perfect. And then into that next stitch, we're going to make 1 single crochet. Sometimes it's tricky when it's this small to see your stitches. So really make sure you're watching every stitch and making sure you're going into the correct one. And into that last stitch, we're going to place our single crochet increase. So now we have 6 single crochet. I forgot to remove my stitch marker again. So sorry. Put it up here after my last single crochet. And for round 3 of the spike, we're going to do a single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch 2 times. So all that means is in that first stitch, we're going to place 1 single crochet. Into the next stitch, we're going to place 2 single crochet. So that's going to be our increase. And then into that third stitch, we're going to place 1 single crochet. And that's the sequence. So we're going to do that 1 more time because it said to do it 2 times. So into that next stitch, 1 single crochet. Stitch marker is getting in the way. Into that next stitch, 2 single crochet. And then into that stitch with our stitch marker, we're going to do 1 single crochet. And that is the end of the spike. So we do not need to stuff the spike, but we do need to fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. So let's do that. Again, don't forget to pull your hook through so you really secure that into place. And now we have one of our cute little spikes. So go ahead and make 2 more of the spikes, and then we'll assemble our Rex together. Okay guys, so I've made my 2 other spikes, and I brought everything forward because we're gonna start assembling Rex, our dinosaur. So you no longer need your crochet hook or your stitch marker, so you can set those aside. We'll just need our darning needle now, and we're going to start by attaching the head onto the body. So our first set of instructions is to sew the head onto the body using a long tail. If necessary, add more stuffing before closing. So for me, I'm going to take my head, and I actually already threaded my darning needle through the head of my dinosaur, and I'm going to set it right on top of the body here. So the back ends where we fastened off, I'm going to actually have those meet up here in the back. And something you can do as a little hack to just keep it in place while you're sewing it down is you can take both of your ends to your project and you can just tie them together close to the base of the project, just like that, all the way. This is just going to help us really have a stable point to work off of when we are sewing the body onto the head. So with that in place, That is just gonna make our life so much easier, and I can just hold them down like this, and then taking the head, I'm gonna have it kind of cracked open like this. I'm gonna go into the body stitch from the outside in towards the stuffing area here, and then I'm gonna go up through and out of the last round of the head stitch there. So we're just gonna be weaving back and forth, and then from here, now that we're coming out of the top, we're gonna go through the head stitch, going in towards the stuffing, and down here by the body, we're gonna come out that last round of stitches like that, and just pull it closed nice and tight every single time. Next one, we're gonna go in through the last round of the body, and we'll come out of the last round of the head like that, and pull that one tight, and we're just going to repeat this all the way around until our head is secure onto our body. We'll know we've come to the end of this when we meet back up with where we tied our knot back here. So go ahead and complete that, and then we'll take a look and see if we're going to need to add more stuffing before we finish up closing off the head. All right, I'm to my last couple stitches before the head is totally closed onto the body, and I actually have plenty of room to add a little more stuffing, so I'm gonna do that. Something else I wanted to quickly mention is if for some reason your tail from your head was not long enough to make it all the way around the body, just make sure you leave about this much left out while you're sewing it on, and then you can always go from the body tail and meet up to the other side of your tail, and you can fasten off over there. It doesn't necessarily have to meet back at this point. I just thought I'd mention that in case for some reason one of your tails isn't quite long enough. But let me add a little more stuffing into here, and then we'll finish closing off the head and body. Okay, I've just stuffed my dinosaur head the rest of the way, and you'll know yours is stuffed properly when the head is standing up straight like that. If you have it falling to one side or another, you might need a little bit more stuffing, but mine is staying nice and straight, so I'm just gonna finish closing this off just the way we have been, and then we'll fasten off our ends and weave them into our project. So just give me 1 second here. All right, so I'm at the end of my round where both of my ends have met up. I'm gonna go ahead and tie this in a knot really quickly, and then I'm just gonna take one more time through the project and weave these ends through. It can come out anywhere on the body, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna hide that little end piece, and I'm gonna cut this off, and I'm gonna do the same thing for this other end here. So once you do that, we'll meet back up and we'll move on to the eyes. So now that all those ends are all woven in, we are going to work on the eyes and actually the mouth as well. So using color B, which was our black yarn, I've already threaded my needle here, and it says we're gonna embroider the eyes on round 6, leaving 10 stitches between them, making 4 or 5 stitches in the same place for each eye. You can also take a look at the instructions here. They do have picture 2 and 3, so you can kind of see what this will all look like, just if you want another visual guide, but let's do that together really quickly. So first we need to find where round 6 is. So what I like to do is count from the swirl, because this was round 1, this is our 6th single crochet, and then I'll just count down this way. I am gonna try to do this in the most middle of the dinosaur's head that I can, because I'll show you how we're gonna count back since we need about 10 stitches in between the eyes. So this being round 1, then we have round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then from here, since this is about the most middle spot of the project, I like to use these single crochets as kind of like a grid while I'm working. We're just gonna count over 5 stitches on this side, then that way we can count about 5 stitches on this side, and we'll be as even as we possibly can. Something else you can do if you want to while we're embroidering the one eye, you can just add your stitch marker right into here to kind of mark our middle. Let me move that darning needle out of the way. And I'm just gonna put this here just so I know that this was what we deemed the middle of the project. That way I'll know where to count back for my other eye. So let's count 5 stitches over here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and I'm gonna insert into the bottom of that stitch, and I'm gonna go just 1 stitch length up, so the height of 1 single crochet, and I'm gonna push through, pulling this yarn basically all the way through my work, because we're gonna do both the eyes and mouth together. So I'm gonna leave about this much of a tail. This will just be to sew into the project at the end, and going directly back through that same space we just went through, go through it again. And that'll make 1 line for our eye. So I did recommend we do this about 4 to 5 times. So let's just keep going through until we're happy with how big our eye is. And make sure you don't get this end caught up at any point in that project either. So you just want to be mindful of that. That's 2 for us. Okay, here's number 3. And let's do one more. I think 4 is going to be great for us. It's getting caught on the bottom of the body there. There we go. Okay, that is 4, and I think that's perfect for our Rex. I'm really happy with that. So now we need to go on this side of the stitch marker, and let's count 5 stitches out this way. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is stitch number 5 right here. So holding my nail there just for a moment, I'm going to go underneath of the project until my needle pops out the other side of where we want to place that eye. So go ahead and do that. So it's coming out where our new next eyeball will be. And that way it just hides the work. We have much less ends to weave in. It's just a little trick I like to do. And over here now, instead of working from the bottom up, we're just going to work from the top down, but we're going to do the same exact thing. Just the height of 1 stitch. And we're going to make sure we mimic what we did on the other side by embroidering this on 4 times. So that's 2, 3, and 1 more for 4. 4. Perfect. So now both sides of our dinosaur have an eyeball, which is great, and we're ready to do the mouth. So for the mouth, it says using color B, embroider mouth along 16 stitches between round 8 and 10. So again, you can look at your reference if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and push my needle through exactly the same place where we are, and we're just going to go down a couple rounds. So remember, this was round 6, so we have round 7, 8, and we're going to start at round 8 so we can kind of have a grin on him. So let's do that. We want to come out though about where our eyeball was. So let's come out right about here, just slightly diagonal to the eye, but that's okay. Kind of want to have a bigger smile on him. If you want a tiny smile, you can just do it across a couple stitches, but we'll do a big toothy grin for Mr. Rex. And then we're gonna go 16 stitches over, or really until we meet our other eye over here, kind of going in a downwards motion till round 10, which is about right here. So the first stitch we're gonna place is slightly diagonal from where we are now, and it's just gonna be 1 row down again. So let's place that in, and we're gonna actually come out of that next stitch there too. So let's just place that in right there. So there's the first part of our smile, and then we have this little gap before the yarn comes back out. We're just gonna go back through that part of the stitch, and we're gonna go down slightly diagonal to the next stitch. Okay, perfect. Now we have the first little part of his mouth forming, and then we're just going to continue this by closing this gap and coming out the row below it, or in the next case, we'll just continue on across because that will be our row 10. So we're going to go into that stitch right where you see the gap there, and we'll come out right next to it so we can sew that closed next. Just like that. Okay, so this is row 10, so we want to stay straight on row 10 for a little while. So I'm going to turn my project slightly sideways, and going into that next gap, we're going to push out 1 stitch over, just like that. Perfect. And then do that again. Coming out about a stitch or so over. It's okay if it's a little more than a stitch. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. We're going to continue this until we get to about the other side of the head here. Okay, now I'm to the other side of the head, and I want to start moving my smile back up, so we're giving our T-Rex a nice grin. So we got to close this last stitch here, so we're going to go in through that spot, and let's come out slightly diagonal 1 row above, just so we can kind of try to match the other side as much as possible. And then into that gap and going up 1 and over about a stitch again. And then this is where we can check to see if our T-Rex's smile will be pretty even, and it looks like it's gonna match up pretty well. So we can make our last stitch into here, and that will end our mouth. So now our T-Rex has this really cute little grin about him, and I love the way that looks. So let's also do the nose while we're still attached and we don't have to cut another end. We're gonna embroider the nostrils on round 6 and 7, leaving 4 stitches between them. So we do have, again, our middle guide, but I'm gonna eyeball this one. So going back through my work, I'm gonna come out about, I would say right here. So right before that stitch marker I had placed. And similar to how we've done everything else, we're just gonna go through that one stitch and come out the same side there, just similar to the eyeballs. This time we're just going horizontally instead of vertically across the stitches. And let's just do one more time, but this time when we go across, let's go 4 stitches over 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to pop out our yarn needle over here, just like that. Got our tail stuck in from earlier. Okay, perfect. That'll be one nostril, and then we just need to repeat that on this side, so let's do that. That is 1 time through, and we did 2 for that side, so we need to do 2 again. Since this is our very last embroidering stitch, I'm just gonna push it back through the back of the head here like this. I'll pull it all the way. And don't pull it too tight or you'll make the nostril too tight, but look how cute that looks. We're gonna go ahead and cut this tail off. Cut it as close to the head as you can. There we go. And make sure you weave this other end here, and then we'll go ahead and move on to the arms. All right, so now we'll start the arms. So it says position the arms on either side of the body about between rounds 15 and 19 using the tails and tapestry needle to sew them in place and secure them. So just quickly, let's get all of our other body parts out of the way that we'll be sewing down later, so that being the feet and the tail. I'm just gonna put them aside because I don't wanna get them confused with the arms. And you can tell all of our pieces have 2 tails coming out of them, both the one that we left for sewing and then our original starting tail. And that's for all of these pieces. Don't worry about those right now because we'll actually sew those into place later. It'll help make the piece look really clean and neat, but right now we're just gonna worry about the long tail that we left purposefully. That's the part you're going to position up next to the body. So let me thread one of my arms and we'll add this to the body. So now my needle is threaded, we're ready to start the arms. So to know where to position the arms, I'm gonna count back from kind of his neck area because the last round of our body was round 21. So we can count down from 21. That's a lot easier than counting all the way up. But let's count down together. So this is 21, 20, 19, which was where they initially said to start, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15 down here. So I'm gonna go back up to 19, so 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm gonna place my first stitch to secure the arm down right here. And again, this is personal preference, so if you want to have your arms more in the front, you are totally welcome to do so. I'm going to have mine off to the side here, and then to secure the arm into place, I'm going to do a very similar method to how we attach the head to the body by just going through the one stitch of the last round of the arm there, and I'm going to make sure that stitch is then secured into the body, just one stitch length there. And that'll just help really put it into place. Again, you're gonna wanna pull this nice and secure, but not too tight where you are causing a dent in the dinosaur's body. Also, continuously checking to make sure it's nice and even and in the place you want it to be. So that looks very cute. I'm just gonna continue that all the way around the circle of the arm until I get back to my starting point. And then we'll fasten this off and weave this end in. Just worked all the way around the arm. I'll take one final look from the front and that looks very good and cute. So while I have this end on my needle, I'm just gonna place one final securing stitch through, and it can come out again wherever you'd like because we're just gonna snip that off. And that's just so random ends don't pop out of our project at some point later on down the road. We don't want that to happen. So now go ahead and repeat that same process for the other side. Make it as even to this arm as possible, and I'll meet you back here once I have this arm completely secured. All right, both of my arms are on, and we're still ignoring these tails here. We'll do those at the end like I mentioned, or if they're really bothering you, you can sew them down now. But let's move on to the feet. So I'm going to move the feet back into frame here, and let's read the instructions for those. So it says, for the feet, position them on either side of the body between rounds 5 and 8 and use the tails to sew them into place. There is again a picture for this on the other side of the instructions if you want to take a look at it, but let me thread my needle and we'll start sewing down our first foot here, or leg, whichever one you want to call it. So from the swirl, this is our round 1. We have round 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the first round I had mentioned. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So right in between this area here, I'm going to go through about here. Now this you'll have to kind of gauge too by looking at it and where you want the feet to be on, and also to make it even. You'll have to check that out too. So that is my first stitch secured on, and similar again to how we did the head and now the arms, we're going to go through one stitch of the body and then one stitch from the leg in that last round only. That's the only round we ever work our securing stitches on. So again, we're in the next stitch from the leg round and into the body, just working it in that same circle pattern. We'll sew that on. Go ahead and complete that for both of the feet, and we'll meet back to put the tail on. I'm just finishing up my second foot right here, but I forgot to mention, make sure you're weaving in your last end too before you're cutting it off so you don't have any tails popping out anywhere. There we go. And now both of my feet are attached onto my dinosaur. It's starting to really come together. So let's put on the tail. So it says to position the tail in the center back of the body between rounds 5 and 8. And using the tails, sew it into place. All right, so again, we're gonna work in round 5 to 8 of the back of the body, so about equal to where we just worked those little feet or legs. I'm gonna thread my needle here and then we'll start sewing this on, very similar to how we did both of the legs and the arms. So here we go, we have it threaded, and you can see with the tail, it kind of does go in a little bit of a slant here. So you have this bottom part that's a little more pointy and then it kind of slopes up. I'm gonna keep that shape like this so that the straighter edge is facing down towards the bottom of the body, and we have that kind of slope going up the back. That'll just look more like a dinosaur would. So with it in the most centered we can make it, let's go ahead and sew it down. And we're gonna go through the body stitch first. The first stitch is always the hardest just to secure it in, so let's do that. There we go. Make sure you're double checking that your slope is matching up with the body, and then I'm going through the tail stitch that last round and coming out the same stitch of the body that it would be next to, and follow this all the way around your circle. I'll meet you back when I have the tail secured on and we'll weave in the ends for this. So I've just met back up with where I started sewing the tail on, and I'm going to push my needle through one last time for that last stitch. Just happens to be coming out the front of the stitch here, no problem. Cut this off and we will work on assembling our last piece, which is the spikes. Now before we move on to the spikes, let's sew in our arm ends, and if you had tail ends, if you didn't flip your ends out, sew those in, and our tail. Let's do all that before we do the spikes so that we have all of these ends out of the way while we're working on the back here. Now that all my ends are woven in, I am ready to start the spikes if you are. So we're gonna put our dinosaur back right here, and we're gonna sew our 3 spikes on, which we're just gonna sew right on to the back of the body here, and trying to keep as straight of a line as we can. So I did thread my first spike to show you, and as you can see, we want to keep this opening where we fastened off closest down to the body, so don't get it accidentally shifted where your opening's off to the side. You want that little opening gap you have to go right on to the back of the body like that, and we'll just sew all 3 of these down. You can also just like put one up top if you want, one on the tail, whichever you feel looks cutest for you. I'm just gonna start sewing right into the back of the body the same way that we've been attaching all of the other parts, by going through the body and the last round of the spike to attach. Whoops, just came off my darning needle. You go ahead and do that for all 3 of them, and then we'll meet back up to take one final look at our dinosaur. So now with all 3 spikes on, we can take one final look at Rex. This is what our little dinosaur looks like. I just think he is actually the cutest. I was so excited to make him and he did not disappoint. So let me know what you thought about this and what you thought about the tutorial, if you found it helpful. Let me know where you put the spikes. Did you go 3 back like this, or did you add one to the head? I'd love to hear from you. And let me know if you've checked out any other of Likey's Amitami kits and which other ones you're excited about making. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you give the video a like before you leave today, and we'll be seeing you next time. Bye!